Hi, Trisha Reed here, consciouslypresent.com, trauma-informed coach, energy healing practitioner, and author. In today's video, I'm going to talk about what's going on when others make you responsible for their words, emotions, feelings, behaviors, and actions, and give you some tips for how to handle it. Show me a single human without wounds and scars, and I'll show you a person who didn't grow up on Earth. We all have wounds and scars, every one of us. Some of us take responsibility for healing them. Others shift the blame and use us to regulate their nervous systems for them. Some are more resilient than others, while others remain as raw, triggered nerves for their whole lives. No two of us are the same. And this makes this world an interesting and confusing obstacle course that can be pretty tricky to navigate. What might work with one person seems to have the opposite effect on others. We might like to see ourselves as a big, strong, anchored oak tree, only to find our limbs torn apart, toppled over with our roots sticking up in the air when the fierce winds of challenge blow too hard and knock us over. Maybe we should have been a palm tree instead. Knowing when to be firm or when to be flexible can be a real conundrum in a realm full of all of these different people with all their different perspectives and behaviors. So let's talk about one of the most troubling behaviors that we deal with from others. Maybe we even engage in it ourselves without realizing it sometimes. Blame shifting. Oh, this one can be so infuriating. It's like somebody's there forcing you to play hot potato when you never volunteered to play. Someone tosses you the hot potato. If you catch it, you're playing the game, and it happens before you even knew what happened. It's a conditioned reflex, and before you know it, you're left standing there burning your hands on the hot potato that someone else threw at you. What is blame shifting? Well, it's just what it implies. It's the act of shifting blame onto someone else. The act of making someone else guilty or responsible for something the other person doesn't want to feel guilty or responsible or accountable for. It's an act of wrong-making, making someone else wrong when they are not. It's one tactic that so many people use to get others to be responsible for how the other feels or behaves, and to get others to regulate the other's nervous system for them. Some methods people use to try to make us responsible for how they feel include manipulation, controlling behavior, gaslighting, invalidation, sabotage, triangulation, backstabbing, criticism, neglect or disinterest, and punishment tactics. After all, these are all methods used on us all in this realm. It's how we've been conditioned, and we are largely unconscious of it, unaware of when someone does it or when we do it ourselves. We don't even realize it's abusive behavior until we become consciously aware of what abuse is and how it's used. We think it's normal because it has become so in this realm. We're numb to it, but still, we can feel it without knowing exactly what it is we're feeling and why it hurts so much, or why we react to it in ways that might not be the best ways. It can make our heads spin and even put us into a full-on freeze, complete with brain fog and stuttering when someone makes us responsible for how they feel and behave, truly mystified and perplexed about why someone just treated us that way. As our nervous system becomes more and more conditioned to walking on eggshells, and our bodies get stuck in bracing patterns, waiting for the next tantrum by the person in question, as we live in fear of being ourselves, expressing ourselves, while we censor ourselves right out of alignment or integrity with the truth of our essence, we disconnect from our authenticity. This leads to a soul-draining trap that can take a lot of time and work to free ourselves from and heal. Rather than being taught in school and by society in general how to be okay regardless of what someone else thinks or says, we are instead conditioned into fear of what others think of us, and that we need others to agree with us and validate us in order to be okay. Others have to change their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors in order for us to feel safe and worthy. Of course, this begins in infancy. As human babies, we need a safe environment to survive. We need our parents to give us their constant focus and attention and validation. And we need our parents to regulate our nervous systems for us, because as human babies, we're not born with mature nervous systems or the capability to regulate them ourselves. Think about a baby for a moment. If the baby gets too hot, all bundled up, for example, what can a baby do to cool off? If a baby is hungry or thirsty, what can a baby do to tend to its needs? How about a messed diaper? What about when the baby gets bored or just needs to turn over? Until a baby's nervous system develops more as it grows older, the baby is 100% dependent on its parents to tend to all its needs in order to regulate its nervous system. The baby cannot self-regulate, and this is vital because a dysregulated nervous system goes into fight or flight. And if that nervous system isn't regulated, then this becomes a life-endangering situation. Our bodies are brilliantly designed, as we have a built-in emergency brake, which is what we call the freeze response. When the nervous system is too highly activated in fight or flight and unable to be regulated, the dorsal branch of the vagus nerve becomes activated, and this engages the emergency brake, or the freeze. This prevents the baby from having a heart attack and dying. But whatever emotions are flooding the nervous system and the bodily tissues when the freeze kicks in, it gets frozen or stuck in the nervous system and the bodily tissues. These become the emotions that later trigger us and cause us so much discomfort when someone or something activates them. And we're not taught in school or by our families or church or society what to do when this happens. So, in a sense, we never outgrow our need from infancy to have someone else regulate our nervous systems for us. This is something we have to learn how to do for ourselves. And if we don't learn how to do this, we just keep making each other responsible for our feelings and behaviors, instead of learning that we are not victims and how to empower ourselves to take responsibility and accountability for our own feelings, thoughts, words, behaviors, and actions. We become the victims and the victimizers we see so prevalent in this realm we live in now. Stuck, frozen emotions get coupled with situations, circumstances, people, toxins, pathogens, foods, chemicals, colors, sounds, EMF frequencies, allergens. Just about anything you can imagine can be coupled with these stuck emotions that were flooding the nervous system at the time of the freeze. Freeze is overwhelm, and overwhelm is trauma. So we seek to avoid the stressors that activate or trigger the stuck emotions because our nervous system has associated them with trauma, and to feel these emotions feels too threatening to us, too dangerous. But feeling these emotions in our bodies is exactly what we need to do in order to start building our capacity to feel them without going into overwhelm. In order for us to stop making each other responsible for our feelings, we have to learn how to become resilient and learn how to be okay, regardless of what someone else says or does, regardless of the other's beliefs, perspectives, opinions, boundaries, or anything else that we would otherwise give our power away to. Have you noticed how polarized this world has become? Have you noticed the absolute intolerance for other people's differing viewpoints and opinions? Have you seen or even experienced your own family breakdowns over the inability to simply agree to disagree and respect each other's right to their own opinions? This is a symptom of a society that never outgrew, never learned how to regulate their nervous systems, never learned how to stop making others responsible for each other's emotions and feelings. It's a society of babies and toddlers who never learned how to stop giving their power away to others and empower themselves. What are we saying to someone when we need them to agree with us, for example? What are we saying to someone when we make them responsible for how we feel instead of being responsible for our own feelings? We're saying, essentially, you are my parent. You are my authority. You have the power to make me feel bad in some way. We're saying, I can't tolerate feeling the way I feel, so you have to change something about yourself so I can be okay. We're saying, you have to stop something in your life to tend to my needs, as I am your infant who is incapable of regulating my own nervous system. We're saying, I'm stuck and I don't know how to get unstuck, so I need you to dig me out of my rut. We're saying, you're not allowed to be you. We're saying, I have to control you because I can't control me. How many of us really want to be sending these messages to each other? I don't believe that many of us really do. I have to believe that most of us want to be responsible and in control of how we feel, and just don't know how. So how do we start empowering ourselves and build healthier relationships with ourselves, with each other, and with the world we live in? Well, that's what I teach in my course, so if you'd like to learn more about that, head over to my site, consciouslypresent.com, and consider signing up. For now, I'm going to give you some tips you can start using right now. First, when you feel yourself get upset about a situation, circumstance, or an interaction with another person, take a pause and breathe. Ask yourself what you're feeling. If you're not used to introspection, it might feel a little confusing because you might have all sorts of emotions and sensations coming up. Just let this be okay. Get out a pen and journal and take some notes. Include whatever thought and emotions are coming up. When any emotions come up, shift into curiosity about that emotion and specifically ask, how and where does this emotion show itself in my body? What does that feel like? And then take just 2 minutes, no longer than that, just 2 minutes to disconnect from any story or memory in your mind and put your conscious presence into your body so that you can track this feeling in your body. Log your observations into your journal. This is what is known as somatic experiencing. Stop then and ask yourself, am I still alive? Did I survive this feeling? Note that you did. Then ask, what would the solution or desired outcome feel like in my body? This time, take a moment to envision or even write out your desired outcome or solution to what's troubling you. And then take 2 minutes to feel what that feels like in your body. Ask yourself, did I notice that I just proved that I can choose how I feel right now in this moment? Remember, it's not the mind part of the body-mind complex that feels. It's the body part of the body-mind complex, the physical body, that feels. The mind can choose what to focus on. This exercise helps you to build the capacity to feel what we otherwise try to avoid feeling and therefore remain in fear of it. It helps to build resilience as well as choice and self-empowerment, the ability to choose how we feel when someone might be trying to make us responsible for how they feel, or when we might be unwittingly making someone else responsible for how we feel. This helps us to take our power back. Another tip is to also address your energetic meridian system, where emotional energies also can get stuck. Using EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, or TFT, Thought Field Therapy, Meridian Tapping, is another great tool you can use because it helps to clear the stuck energies from your meridian system. Another thing that can help is essential oils. There are some essential oils that help to stimulate the ventral branch of the vagus nerve, which is where your calm, parasympathetic, rest and digest state is accessed. This is the state we want to be in most of the time. There's an essential oil blend by Vibrant Blue Oils that I highly recommend. I love it. It's excellent. It's called Parasympathetic, which helps to calm the nervous system down by activating your vagus nerve. Try it out. Also important is to safely discharge the stuck emotional energy from your nervous system and bodily tissues. The ways in which to do this depend on what emotions you've accessed. And when you feel your emotions in your body, you're actually accessing them. So, for example, if you've accessed stuck grief or sadness, it is appropriate to cry. Emotions are biochemical neuropeptides, and as such, they are biological in nature. They're physical and can literally be discharged through tears. If anger or rage is an emotion you've accessed by feeling it, for example, you might want to discharge that through some physical activity that involves sweating it out, like maybe kickboxing or maxing out some weights to work out your muscles. However you discharge the emotions in question, it's vital to do it safely and harmlessly. The more emotions you are able to discharge, the less are there stuck and festering, turning you into a raw nerve that gets triggered by other people. The less you feel the need to make anyone else responsible for your feelings, emotions, and behaviors. You start feeling really good about taking control over your own emotions and empowering yourself, which in turn gives others their power back too. Another thing to know is that it's really important to keep your blood sugar stable and stay hydrated and get enough rest. Get good sleep at night. Make sure that you're getting enough good salt, such as Celtic sea salt, as it helps to keep the adrenaline in check and is very good for you. It's really good for your adrenals too. You also need to make sure that you are getting enough healthy glucose, because this helps to suppress the cortisol secretions. So many times when we get triggered, our adrenals kick into high gear with spiking and surging adrenaline and cortisol. And this can cause even more anxiety and distress, blood sugar dysregulation, and this leads to further overwhelm. As overwhelm happens when we have too much stress for too long, too much stress too fast all at once, and insufficient energy resources for the body to handle it, we have to remember that good healthy food and water are resources for the body to handle the stressors that would otherwise turn into overwhelm. The same with sleep and movement. We have to have some stress, but we have to have the recovery. So take the time or make the time to properly feed and hydrate your body, to get enough sleep at night, to move your body so that your lymph system is getting things out. Go for a nice nature walk after eating dinner to help your body to be and stay in a calm parasympathetic dominant state so your body can digest your food properly. So I hope you find this information helpful. Thank you so much for spending some of your time here with me today. If you enjoyed this content, please give this video a thumbs up and share with others too. And I'd love to read your comments below as well. Until next time, enjoy your day.